Does our age really hinder us from learning? Does our age really hinder us from learning, Toastmaster Dinny?
Studies state that humans experience cognitive decline as we age, causing older adults to face difficulty learning new information. Now, I would like to ask you, do you agree with this statement? If yes, type 1. If no, type 2 in the chat box. You agree? Okay, some agree, some not. All right, 1 and 2. Okay. In fact, as we age, our world is revolving, right? And then there are various sets of skills that we should acquire to adapt in the future. Just like what we have here, the top required skills in the future that probably our future generation should know. So we have like data engineering, IT skills, coding, and even critical thinking skills. And then how about us? Like how far must we catch up with the future world when we grow older later on? Now, worry no more, everybody. I believe that we can still grow beautifully and intelligently without being left behind. So today, let us dig deeper on why this may happen and how we can tackle this to maximize our learning at its best. As we all know that human's brain is the most complex part of our body. And the way our brain works appears to be much, much more complex than what we think. Because actually, the concept of learning is not only about remembering things or just memorize math formula or even memorize grammar, right? And then, okay, I've done with the memorizing things, and then, okay, here we go. No, the way our brain responds to the stimuli or the new information is different. Our brain creates connections to build rooms, just like what you see from the picture, that there's a connection here from one room to another room to let the new information in. There's room for music, there's a room for language, there's a room for math, and then many more. And while doing so, our brain must push out the old information so that there's enough space for the new information. And then it makes us a little bit forgetful later on. So probably you know why when you forget the math formula when you were in school. In fact, interestingly, humans' ability to acquire new knowledge significantly declines as we grow older because our brain undergoes changes as time goes by, especially during adolescence and then reaching to adulthood. Infrequently, some types of learning are relatively preserved, just like what we have here, while others show dramatic decline. And based on this diagram, we can see that humans start experiencing cognitive decline after 20s into their 90s, right? Except for the ability of acquiring vocabularies, which shows variance in which the vocabulary knowledge rises marginally and demonstrate little decrease after 60s, right? So here we know that our grandma or our grandpa, they don't even lose their ability to speak. They can still speak, but they just lost their memory, right? So that's what happens with our grandpa and grandma. And now let's get to know our brain briefly. So we humans have this so-called an MDA receptor functioning on learning and memory. There are brain cell subunits that have responsibility for this job, namely an R2B and an R2A subunits. So what are they actually? So an R2B subunits are responsible for learning. So here, when we produce these subunits, we have the ability to obtain more new knowledge. And then we have an R2A subunits. These subunits are responsible for weakening connections in our brain. So these subunits that make us forgetful, because the connection between one room to another room has weakened due to the production of these subunits. And now let's get to know how our brain is developing from children age to adolescent and then to reaching to adulthood. When we were kids, our brain produced more NR2B subunits. We can see here there's color red, yellow, and then a little bit green. That's called as the gray matter, where it consists of brain cells that's in charge of learning. And that's why we know a term of golden age, at which children's brains are like a sponge, right? They are able to absorb new information quickly without even filtering what they see and then what they hear. So that's why we have to be very careful not to do stupid acts in front of kids, because they can just copy what we do, right? Or what we say, as they can catch whatever goes around them. On the other hand, let's take a look at our brain at 12. So our body experiences alteration due to puberty, right? When we reach to middle school age, and there is a subunit and R2A here. That's when we start forgetting things, because our brain cells produced more NR2A that makes the connection or the information weaken. And this is the time when we forget things, and also we just push out the old information. And what happened with the NR2B subunits here? So as time goes by, NR2A subunits is produced more, while the NR2B just leave the brain, because it will leave less the room for new information to enter. Meanwhile, at 25, our brain has developed more rooms for all the information. It means that our brain is fully developed or is fully matured, because we gain more knowledge, we study more at 25. So we have more rooms for all the information that we have accommodated. And for that reason, our brain likely to take the easiest route to the information that we know already. And then it makes us lazy to learn something new. Okay, it is because our brain feels more comfortable to give stimuli for the things we are used to doing on a regular basis. Furthermore, as time goes by, our brain solidifies, making it inflexible to create new rooms or to create new connections for the new information, right? Because we are too lazy to open a new room to the information. Oh, this is so hard for me. I don't want to learn this, all right? So be careful, everybody. And here we can see how our brain undergoes a brain cell loss due to aging. So the left picture is the brain of adolescent and the right one is the brain of older adults. And then we can see like bigger hollow here in our brain. So it means that we have lost some brain cells that makes us probably not able to learn something new or to gain new insights in our brain. Now, another question for you. Have you ever met somebody you are familiar with, but you forgot where or when you met, or even the worst is you forget their names? Have you ever done that? Yeah, I can see that people are nodding. And that is when our brain shows the declining memory load. Because as we grow older, we find difficulty binding chunks of information, like the background of that person. Okay, his name is this, and then his family is coming from this, and blah, blah, blah. We learned those information in the past, but as we grow older, we find difficulty to connect all the information in mixed contexts. But now I don't want you to focus on how our minds can be deteriorating due to aging, because I believe that people, oh my goodness, what happens with my brain? No, I don't want this presentation to be sad. So now let's focus on how we can prevent this from happening, or at the very least, we can alleviate the deficits by applying 5 recommendations that I will give to you after this. I will call it as UC+S. So the first one is you. Understand how our brain works. So if we look into the most popular theory of learning style, so-called as VARK, visual, auditory, reading or writing, and then kinesthetic, we can try alleviating the decline of mind deterioration so that we can be able to learn more things in the future. So let's take it for instance. People with visual learning style will enjoy the learning by seeing charts or diagrams to comprehend what's being presented. On the other hand, reading or writing learners excel at learning from written words. So they can nail it just by reading the books or reading a journal or even just looking up some words in dictionary. And probably others cannot do that because probably they cannot just memorize things from writing or just reading. So every one of you have different style of learning. So you have to know what types of learners are you. Apart from that, there are also other types of learning styles that we should know as well. So here we have logical, analytical, sociolinguistic, solitary, and then nature. And of course, each one of us have our own preferences to learn. Some might enjoy problem-solving methods. Some might enjoy role-playing methods. Okay, some might enjoy discussion. And then probably some might enjoy learned outside. Okay, by learning outdoors, you can hear some birds chirping, and then you can feel the wind breezing, and then you can focus on your learning. Some might do that, right? Hence, executing the suitable learning style will promote successful learning. The second one is challenge ourselves. Seeking out challenges help us to adapt to new environments as our brain muscle is trained to persevere more when we encounter new things, right? Just like when we go to the gym, okay? Probably at first our muscles sore because we are not used to doing that. But as time goes by, when our muscles get used to it, it feels like so light, right? We can enjoy the exercise even more. And it happens to learning as well. So this makes us get used to the learning, and our brain becomes more flexible to new information. Besides, I think it would be better as well to challenge ourselves to apply what we have learned before into real practice, so that it can be more applicable and then practical and then helpful for our learning process. The next one is stay focused and consistent. So consistency is the key to success. Who agrees with this, right? We know that in every step of the learning process, there must be several levels that we have to accomplish. Just like what we have in Toastmasters. We have level 1 to level 5 for the educational program, and then we also other projects for the leadership program. And each level, I believe, has its own range of difficulty, right? And sometimes we might think of giving up. Oh my goodness, this project is so difficult. I think I don't want to continue. Or probably, oh, I think I want to change to another project first, right? We might think of giving up when we encounter difficulties. However, my suggestion is, instead of just throwing away all of our efforts into nothing, just keep doing it until your task is completed so that your goal is achieved. That way, you can move on to other tasks that await you. So here, I would like to say that please stay focused, consistent, and keep doing what you have started over and over until you get used to it. The fourth one, share your knowledge. And this is coming from my very own experience, because I believe sharing or teaching our knowledge to others helps us construct every piece of information that we receive. And then, in fact, it stays longer in our brain. Okay? And then, for your information, when we receive new knowledge and then we process that in our brain to transfer that to other people, our brain will solidify the information. So that's why the information or the knowledge will keep remaining in our brain through the acquisition and then teaching process. Others might think that teaching is only for teachers. In my opinion, it is a big no-no, right? Just like what you do in Toastmasters, you can freely share your knowledge, right? Your insights to all the participants in the room. So make use of it so that you can enforce successful learning. By doing that as well, you can keep maintaining your knowledge inside your brain, everybody, so that you will not forget that in the future. And the fifth recommendation, stop multitasking. Some say multitasking is a gift. Apparently, multitasking can be one of the obstacles to learning, because we cannot focus on what we are doing, right? As there are a lot of things that we have to do at once. Aside from that, multitasking appears ineffective because it can reduce our comprehension. And then to enforce successful learning, it is better for us to learn one thing at a time so we can focus. So you can make a priority list. First, you have to complete this, and the second one, you complete this, and the next one, you learn this and learn that. So you keep doing the tasks one by one, not all of the things at once. So dear all long life learners, in conclusions, after we reach the age 12 and 25, our brain alters a lot, as there are a lot of changes in our body due to puberty. And in fact, it affects our brain performance. However, let us put this in mind that age is actually not a hindrance to learning. We can still do that. As we know from this quote, we might be much slower in comprehension and forgetful at times. Yes, but we gain more experiences and then wisdom. And then also how to lessen the deficits. We can do these 5 practical suggestions. Use it triple S. First, understand how our brain works. Second one, challenge ourselves. Third one, stay focused and consistent. Fourth one, share your knowledge. And then fifth, stop multitasking. And in the end of the day, ask this question to yourself. Does age really hinder you from learning? Don't you think that you want to grow beautifully and intelligently? If yes, don't let your brain rest too long, everybody. Keep feeding yourself with knowledge. Just like a computer, installing and then updating apps. That's what we should do to keep updated by learning. So just keep feeding yourself and then don't be afraid of losing your memory, because I believe that you can still grow beautifully and intelligently. Back to you, our Toastmasters of the meeting.
Grow beautifully and intelligently. Okay, one big applause from me to you, Toastmaster